Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my November reading wrap-up. Quite unlike previous months, I only read 16 books this month, which I think this is the first time all year I've read below 20 books. But again, November was a weird month and reading just really wasn't something I was interested in doing, so that's kind of why there's a little downtick in that. But for my TBRs, I was able to read one off of my physical TBR list, which was Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez, and I was also able to read one of my KU TBRs, which was Salt and Broom by Sharon Lynn Fisher. So at least my November wasn't a complete failure. But yeah, other than that, I wasn't able to again add to my ABC challenge. I don't think I'll find that X and Y book this year. But for my favorite book of the month, it was The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri, and then our book club theme for this month was fall, and so we chose A Match Made for Thanksgiving by Jackie Lau. As we near the end of the year, new releases do tend to slow down, but there were still some good releases in November, and I acquired a few of them, one being The Teller of Small Fortunes, Where the Library Hides, The Lotus Empire, The Legacy of Arniston House, The Courting of Bristol Keats, Serpent Sea, and The Last Hour Between Worlds. So this monthly setup will be just a bit different than previous months, since I did read exactly 16 books, and that is the number of images that I can put on a single page. I don't really have the flowers or the stats hidden door that you see me do in previous months. So this first page is just going to be the covers of the 16 books that I read, and then I have added a couple additional reviews this month to kind of even out the number of pages that I use. But like I said, this month, for some, actually probably for most people, reading 16 books is quite a lot. But for me, this was not my average. This was well below my average. And like I said, November was just kind of a weird month for me. I did have a couple celebrations, like a birthday and an anniversary at the beginning of the month, so I was busy celebrating those and didn't really have a lot of time for reading. And then with the Thanksgiving holiday and just other things going on, there was just some other distractions this month that kept me from reading. And I also got back into this British television show, and so I was actually kind of watching more TV than reading, but still, I had a really good month, especially when it comes to the ratings of the books. I think I had five-star books this month, which was great. I got to finish this new series, that Tasha Suri wrote this month, and then a couple of my high TBR books I also got to read, such as Kingfisher's newest book, as well as The Bone Witch by Chupeco. So yeah, I think overall this was a pretty good month, so that's why I selected a few more books to review and to talk about. But here is my title page, and now on to the review portion. Starting with the first book that I read this month, and my favorite, The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. This is the second book in the Burning Kingdoms trilogy, where we see Malini, who has been named Empress by the prophecy of the Nameless God, determined to seize the throne from her brutal brother, no matter the bloodshed it requires. Priya, thrice-born priestess and elder of Ariana, carries the Deathless Water's power in her veins and dreams of freeing her country from Parajippa's decay and the blooming sickness spreading through the land. Though their paths have pulled them apart, Malini and Priya's souls remain bound, and they must come together to confront those who would rather see the kingdom burn, even if their unity demands the ultimate sacrifice. There's no second book syndrome here. The Oleander Sword took everything that was established in book 1 and built upon it tenfold. Malini and Priya must now navigate their new roles as leaders of their respective peoples, as well as their developing feelings for one another, and a looming war. I'm in love with this series, the world building, Suri's writing, and the array of characters that populate this lavish story. Again, I gave this 5 stars, and I highly recommend this trilogy to any fantasy lovers. Next up, we have For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga. This is a standalone YA fantasy. Framed for a crime she didn't commit, Danya spends 364 days in prison plotting revenge on Mazen, the boy who betrayed her, and the one she can't forget. A chance discovery of a fellow prisoner's stolen Jinn treasure leads to their daring escape and a hunt for the relic. Armed with dark magic and a new identity, Danya sets out to destroy those who wronged her, but Mazen stands in her way, complicating her plans with a lingering, undeniable connection. As her pursuit of vengeance deepens, Danya must navigate the perilous web of lies, dark power, and the growing risk of losing both her humanity and her heart. The novel's fast pace kept me hooked as Danya weaves a tangled web of lies and traps, her wrath tempered only by her fierce bond with fellow inmate Noor. The addition of Jinn magic and a thrilling prison escape brings a fresh twist to this female-driven fantasy, and the friends-to-lovers dynamic between Danya and Mazen adds a little extra to the overall story. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, we have The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. Tao, a wandering fortune teller who specializes in small predictions to avoid big consequences, prefers a solitary life with her trusty mule. But when a thief and an ex-mercenary enlist her help to find a lost child, their journey attracts a ragtag group, including a baker with a taste for adventure and a magical cat. As Tao opens her heart to this unexpected family, the shadows of her past threaten to unravel everything, forcing her to decide if the bonds she's formed are worth risking it all. This book was one of my most anticipated reads of 2024, and once I got my hands on it, I couldn't put it down. It is the perfect cozy fantasy with all of my favorite ingredients, including found family and an animal companion. I enjoyed every aspect of this story, from the characters to the storytelling, and each character we encounter has their own unique blend. Definitely a book steeped to perfection. I gave it 5 stars. Then we have Salt and Broom by Sharon Lynn Fisher. In this enchanting reimagining of Jane Eyre leaves her sheltered life as an herbal healer to work at the enigmatic Thornfield Hall for the reclusive Edward Rochester. As she navigates his prickly demeanor, Jane is drawn to him, but mysterious mounting threats force her to confront a dark and dangerous force. With only her potions and protective charms, Jane must fight to save the man she loves and uncover the secrets of Thornfield Hall. I really enjoyed this reimagining of one of the more atmospheric classics. Fisher does a fantastic job of setting the scene and creating a fresh story while also paying homage to the original in small ways. Jane's dynamic with Edward was fraught with tension, and I couldn't get enough. I gave it 5 stars. Moving on, we have The Legacy of Arniston House by T.L. Huchu. In The Legacy of Arniston House, the 4th book in T.L. Huchu's Edinburgh Night series, ghost talker Ropa Moyo is back, navigating even darker territory and grappling with a shocking revelation about her family. When she confronts her grandmother, tragedy strikes, and Ropa becomes the prime suspect in Gran's murder. Racing to clear her name, Ropa uncovers ties to an ancient cult with sinister plans, raising an undead army led by a dark lord to seize control of Scotland. As she battles through this occult conspiracy, Ropa relies on her magical skills and hard-earned experience to face her biggest challenge yet. After 4 books with Ropa, her dramatic flair and clever resourcefulness are as familiar as they are entertaining. Though her escapades are beginning to feel a bit worn, this installment had more drive than book 3, but the plot's rapid pace left little room to truly digest the twists and high-stakes moments. Still, Huchu kept me hooked with a heart-stopping cliffhanger, ensuring I'll be back for the next book. I gave it 3 stars. Then we have one of my favorites, Teen Kingfisher's A Sorceress Comes to Call. In this dark retelling of the Brothers Grimm's Goose Girl, Cordelia lives under the oppressive rule of her sorcerer mother, enduring isolation, silence, and strict control. After a suspicious death forces them to flee their small town, they arrive at the remote manor where her mother schemes to marry the kind but naive squire, drawing the attention of his sharp-witted sister Hester. Recognizing the fear in Cordelia and the danger her mother poses, Hester must confront the sinister witch to protect her brother and free Cordelia from her mother's grasp. T. Kingfisher does it again I'm not sure what kind of magic she uses in her writing, but I am always eating it up. I've started to notice that I like her longer stories more since she's given more space to expand on the story and really add depth to the characters. In this grim reimagining, Cordelia poses as a very sympathetic protagonist, but for me it was Hester who stole the show, in a way reminding me of a younger Maggie Smith, a la Downton Abbey. I gave this one 5 stars. Next up is a recent new release, Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. High school senior Andrew Perrault escapes into writing twisted fairy tales for his closest friend Thomas Rye, the boy he'd do anything to protect. But when Thomas returns to Wickwood Academy with blood-stained sleeves and haunted eyes, his once whimsical artwork turns deadly as the monsters from Andrew's stories come to life, killing those closest to them. As Andrew and Thomas battle these creatures nightly, their bond deepens, but so does the darkness surrounding them. Andrew must confront the chilling possibility that the only way to end the nightmare is to destroy the creator himself. Set within the close confines of a boarding school, this YA horror packed quite a punch. Andrew and Thomas provide the perfect blend of heart and courage in this tale, and the twist at the end may just be the best I've read all year. I gave it 4 stars. Next up is House of Bone and Rain by Gabino Iglesias. Childhood friends Gabe, Xavier, Tavo, Paul, and Bimbo have always lived in the shadow of death, but when Bimbo's mother is gunned down, their lives are irrevocably changed. Driven by grief and vengeance, the boys pledge to take down the drug kingpin responsible, even as Bimbo's desperation pushes him to dangerous extremes. Their plan unfolds under the looming threat of a storm, one that carries the malevolent spirits of myth onto Puerto Rican shores. Blurring myth and reality, House of Bone and Rain is a haunting coming-of-age tale about violence, loyalty, and the ghosts that linger in the wake of devastation. With a cast full of characters in this award-winning horror fantasy, the island of Puerto Rico stands out all on its own and is by far the best part of the story. The revenge plot at the center of the narrative is intriguing enough, but the slow progression and repetitiveness of Gabe's inner monologue did detract from my enjoyment, but still an overall decent entry into Iglesias' catalog. I gave it 3 stars. And for my final 2 reviews, we have Consider the Turkey by Peter Singer. I read this on Thanksgiving, and after reading it, I have decided I will never eat turkey again. But in this book, best-selling author Peter Singer unveils the troubling reality of commercially bred turkeys while tracing their history and cultural significance. He critiques traditions like the US presidential turkey pardon and introduces Cornelius, a charming and intelligent turkey. Singer advocates for the turkey-free holiday meals, offering vegetarian alternatives and delicious recipes to improve holiday tables for people, animals, and the planet. This thought-provoking book challenges readers to reconsider their holiday feasts and everyday dining habits. This nonfiction that looks into the ugly side of animal processing focuses on Thanksgiving's centerpiece. But after reading this, I'm okay forgoing turkey for the remainder of my holiday feasts. Ignorance is what gets most of us by when we consume animal products, but for a lot of us, it becomes more difficult to ignore the horrors of consuming meat, and the more I learn, the more I begin to lean away from its consumption. Read with caution and preferably before eating anything. I gave it 5 stars. And lastly, we have The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. If you look closely, you can see the review is actually for another book, but I do have a review for this book, and that is after her father's affair shatters her family, Ji-won struggles with failing grades, disturbing dreams, and her growing rage toward George, her mother's arrogant new boyfriend. As bloody visions of blue eyes, eerily similar to George's, consume her, Ji-won's hunger for revenge leads her down a dangerous path of deception and destruction. Set against the backdrop of a fractured family, Monica Kim's The Eyes Are the Best Part blends horror and psychological unraveling in a dark, inventive tale of fury, longing, and the messy fight to heal. This horror debut was equal parts fascinating and gag-inducing. The very visceral depictions of consuming eyes, both animal and human alike, gave me a very physical reaction, but I still could not put this book down. The depictions of racism, misogyny, sexualization of a minor, and other triggers only added to the horror aspect. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I gave this book 5 stars. Here's my full flip through of my November 2024 reading wrap up. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you liked what you saw, show some appreciation and hit that like button. And if you want to see my upcoming videos, including my December wrap-up, my full 2024 flip-through, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. But until next time, everyone, happy reading.